The quantum dropship shuddered as it breached Proxima B's atmosphere, its hull glowing faintly from the friction. Dr. Sarah Chen watched through the viewport as the research station materialized through the perpetual rusty haze, a gleaming testament to interspecies cooperation that had been her home for the past 3 years. Something was wrong. The landing pad's guidance lights were dark. The atmospheric processors, usually painting the sky with their aurora-like emissions, stood silent. Most telling of all was the complete absence of the standard quarantine protocols. No scan beams, no identification requests, nothing but eerie silence. Station control, this is QDS 227, requesting landing clearance. Sarah broadcast, more from habit than expectation. Static answered. She keyed in her emergency override codes, watching as the landing pad's automated systems grudgingly came to life. The ship settled with a soft thud. Sarah waited, suited up in her environmental gear, as the external sensors analyzed the air composition. Everything read normal, but 3 years of synorchaeological work had taught her that normal readings could hide deadly surprises. She stepped onto the pad, her boots magnetizing automatically against the metal surface. The wind howled around her, carrying stinging particles of red dust that pitted the station's outer walls. The distress signal that had cut her Earth vacation short pulsed steadily from somewhere inside. The main airlock yielded to her credentials. As the decontamination cycle ran, Sarah studied the inner door. Deep scratches marred its surface. From the inside, her hand instinctively went to the particle beam at her hip, standard issue for frontier researchers, but something she'd never expected to use. The inner door opened to darkness. Emergency lighting cast long shadows through the corridors, transforming the familiar research station into something alien. Sarah activated her suit's recording systems. Whatever had happened here needed to be documented. Dr. Cathal. She called out, her voice echoing. The Arcturian had been her mentor since she'd first joined the Xenorchaeology program. His last transmission had been garbled, urgent, but betraying none of this devastation. The main laboratory's doors were sealed, but not locked. Inside, holographic displays flickered with static, casting sporadic light across upturned furniture and shattered equipment. The artifact storage units gaped open, empty. 3 years of careful excavation, cataloging, and study. Gone. A sound behind her. Sarah spun. Particle beam raised. Hello. This is Dr. Chen. I'm armed and authorized to defend myself. Sarah. Dr. Cathal's familiar vowel-heavy accent emerged from the shadows. You should not have come back. Relief flooded through her. Cathal. What happened? Where is everyone? The artifacts are where they need to be. Cathal stepped into the light. His crystalline exoskeleton, usually iridescent with mural activity, was dull. Dead. But his eyes. Sarah took an involuntary step back. Where 4 multifaceted eyes should have been, there was only a pulsing ancient light. You're not Cathal. I am more than Cathal now. We are more. And you, Sarah Chen, are an anomaly we need to understand. The walls came alive. What Sarah had taken for new crystal formations began to move, flowing like liquid mercury, but catching the light with organic fractal patterns. They weren't crystals at all. They were bodies, thousands of them. The artifacts were never artifacts, not Cathal said, advancing. They were us, waiting, learning. And now, awakened, your colleagues welcomed us, their silicon minds so perfectly compatible with our own. But you? He tilted his head, an unsettlingly human gesture. You are different, toxic to us, immune. We need to know why. Sarah fired the particle beam. The blast passed through Cathal's body, the crystalline parasites simply flowing aside and reforming. She backed toward the door, mind racing. Silicon-based life forms, compatible with her alien colleagues' biology, but not with her human neural structure. The only advantage she had was that they wanted her alive to study. The only question was, Could she stay that way long enough to understand what she was dealing with? And more importantly, was she truly the only one left? Sarah's boots pounded against the metal floor as she sprinted through the darkened corridors. Behind her, the crystalline parasites flowed like quicksilver through the ventilation systems, their movement creating an otherworldly chiming that echoed through the station. Her mind raced faster than her feet. The quantum lab. She needed to reach the quantum lab. Not Kithel's voice resonated through the station's comm system. Your species' fight-or-flight response is fascinating, Sarah. Such an elegant evolutionary solution, but ultimately futile. She skidded around a corner, nearly colliding with Dr. Xanlai. The arachnoid xenobiologist's 8 eyes glowed with the same ancient light as Kithel's. Sarah ducked under a grabbing limb, noting how the crystalline infection had transformed her colleague's normally jet-black exoskeleton into a lattice of geometric patterns. The others lasted minutes, hours at most. Sandley's voice overlapped with other tones, as if multiple entities spoke through her. But your neural patterns reject us completely. Precious anomaly. The quantum lab's reinforced doors appear ahead. Sarah slammed her palm against the biometric scanner, silently thanking the human bureaucracy that had insisted on separate security protocols for different species. The doors hissed open just as a wave of crystalline forms surged down the corridor. Inside, Sarah initiated emergency lockdown. Titanium shutters slid into place as tentacles of living crystal attempted to breach the gap. A severed tip fell to the floor, twitching before dissolving into inert dust. She collected it in a sample tube. Finally, a moment to think. The quantum lab hummed with power, its array of communicators and processors the most advanced technology on the station. Sarah brought up the neural pattern analyzer, normally used for long-range communication with silicon-based life forms. Her hands flew across the holographic controls, recalibrating it to scan the sample. The results made her blood run cold. The crystalline structure wasn't just similar to the artifacts they'd been studying, it was identical. 3 years, she whispered. We spent 3 years analyzing our own doom. She accessed the station's deep space array, trying to reach Earth. Static. She tried Mars colony. Static. Europa station. Static. A pattern emerged in the interference. Not random noise, but a crystalline signature matching the sample. No, Sarah breathed, pulling up visual feeds from across human space. Everywhere, the same scene played out. Crystal formations growing across buildings, ships, colonies. But the humans in the feeds, they were fighting. Unlike her alien colleagues, humans weren't being absorbed seamlessly. They were being hunted. A massive impact shook the lab. Through the security feeds, Sarah watched as her infected colleagues methodically dismantled the door's external mechanisms. They were learning, adapting to human security protocols. She had minutes, at most. Sarah initiated a deep scan of her own neural patterns, comparing them to stored data from her alien colleagues. The difference was subtle but profound. Human neurons fired chaotically, our thoughts jumping between logic and emotion in patterns that seemed random to outside observers. The crystalline parasites, despite their advanced nature, couldn't interface with such unpredictability. The doors groaned. Sarah downloaded the scan results to her portable data core as a horrifying realization struck. The parasites weren't just studying her. They were trying to evolve, to adapt to human neural patterns. If they succeeded, humanity would lose its only advantage. Her fingers flew across the communication array, broadcasting on all frequencies. Maybe someone was still out there, still fighting. The message was simple. Human minds are naturally resistant. They can't predict us. Use chaos. Use emotion. Stay human. The doors began to glow, superheated by cutting tools. Sarah grabbed her particle beam and the data core, eyeing the maintenance shaft in the floor. She had seen how the parasites moved through the station's systems, but they moved like a fluid, following predictable paths. Perhaps unpredictability was humanity's greatest weapon. As the doors began to melt, Sarah smiled grimly. Time to show these ancient horrors why humans had survived every extinction-level event Earth had thrown at them. Time to get creative. The maintenance shaft was a maze of pipes and conduits, designed for the station's robotic repair systems rather than human passage. Sarah crawled through the cramped space, using her suit's heads-up display to navigate. Above, the Quantum Lab's floor finally gave way with a thunderous crash. "I anticipated this route," Cathal's voice echoed through the shaft. "Your species' remarkable ability to identify escape paths exceeds standard probability matrices. An evolutionary advantage from your predator phase, perhaps." Sarah didn't respond. She'd noticed something about the crystalline parasites' movements. They followed perfect mathematical patterns, spreading through systems like self-replicating fractals. But these patterns made them predictable, at least to a human mind trained to spot nature's hidden mathematics. She reached a junction where several coolant pipes intersected. The neural pattern data was still processing on her portable core, revealing more about the parasite's true nature. They weren't just ancient. They were a battlefield weapon, designed eons ago to absorb and utilize the knowledge of entire civilizations. A glowing tendril of crystal probed the shaft ahead of her. Sarah held her breath, remembering her childhood games of hide and seek. The tendril moved with mechanical precision, sweeping the space in perfectly measured arcs. She waited for the pattern to reach its apex, then rolled sideways into a vertical shaft just as the tendril swept past. The move took her into the station's core, where the massive generators powered everything from life support to the quantum arrays. Here, the infection was most visible. Crystalline formations had transformed the generators into something both beautiful and terrifying. They pulsed with stored energy, but not randomly. Sarah recorded the pattern with her suit's sensors. Fascinating. Multiple voices echoed now, a chorus of her former colleagues. Your neural activity increases with stress, yet your decision-making improves. All other species showed degrading cognitive function under similar conditions. Sarah reached the central control platform. The parasites had built something around the main reactor, a structure that defied Euclidean geometry. As she watched, it shifted and grew, each new formation following the same perfect mathematical rules. "You're not just studying us," Sarah said aloud, understanding finally dawning. "You're afraid of us." The crystalline chorus fell silent. "That's why you targeted Earth first," she continued, her fingers flying across her data core's interface. "Every species you've absorbed follows logical patterns. Silicon-based life, crystalline life, even quantum state beings, they all operate on predictable rules. But humans," she laughed, a sound that echoed strangely in the vast chamber. "Your emergence was anticipated," the chorus responded, but Sarah noticed a new tone. Uncertainty. "Your species was labeled as a potential threat 9 million years ago, when your primitive ancestors displayed the first signs of abstract thinking." Sarah's data core beeped. Analysis complete. The results confirmed her theory. The parasites were processing information like a quantum computer, but they couldn't handle true randomness. Human consciousness, with its constant stream of dreams, emotions, and illogical leaps, was computational noise to their perfect systems. The crystalline structure around the reactor pulsed faster. Sarah recognized the pattern now. They were building a transmission array, preparing to broadcast their consciousness across the galaxy. But the calculations shown on her display revealed their weakness. Their mathematical perfection was their flaw. "You know what I love about being human?" Sarah asked, pulling up the station's reactor controls. "We make mistakes. We think irrationally. We do things just to see what happens." Her fingers hovered over the commands. "Like this." She initiated a random power fluctuation sequence, not calculated, but based purely on her childhood phone number, her favorite color, and the rhythm of a song stuck in her head. The reactor's energy output began to fluctuate wildly. The crystalline chorus screamed in disharmony as their perfect patterns tried to adapt to the chaos. The structure around the reactor shuddered, its geometric perfection distorting as it attempted to compensate for inputs that followed no logical rule. Impossible. Not Kithel's voice cut through the chorus. Your actions, they follow no pattern. Sarah smiled grimly. Welcome to the human mind. The random power fluctuations bought Sarah precious minutes, but the parasites were adapting. Their crystalline structures began pulsing in complex patterns, attempting to identify some underlying logic to her chaos. She needed to move. The maintenance shaft that had served as her escape route now glowed with infected pursuers. The main corridors were similarly compromised. Sarah's eyes fell on the environmental control panel, and a memory surfaced, her first week on the station, when Cathal explained why different sections had separate atmospheric systems. Each species requires unique atmospheric conditions, he had said. It's inefficient, but necessary. Inefficient. Random. Human. Sarah accessed the environmental controls, remembering the countless drills she'd complained about. Her fingers danced across the panel, implementing a plan so illogical it just might work. She began cycling different atmospheric combinations through various station sectors, creating a chaotic pattern of habitable and inhospitable zones. Your attempts to disable us are futile, the chorus of absorbed minds announced. We have absorbed atmospheric control specialists from 17 species. We understand all possible combinations. Do you understand human music? Sarah asked, pulling up her personal entertainment files. She selected her workout playlist, an eclectic mix of classical orchestra, heavy metal, and pop songs from the last 5 centuries. With a few quick modifications, she converted the sound waves into atmospheric pressure waves. The station's atmosphere began to pulse with the rhythm of Mozart overlaid with 21st century drum beats. The crystalline formations shuddered, their perfect geometries disrupted by sound waves that followed no mathematical progression they could comprehend. What is this pattern? The chorus's voice wavered, harmonics breaking down. We cannot. The rhythm changes without logical progression. Sarah ran through the chaos she created, her suit protecting her from the wild atmospheric fluctuations. Behind her, the parasites struggled to maintain their cohesion, their usual liquid metal movement becoming jerky and uncertain. The random combinations of pressure, composition, and sound were overwhelming their ability to adapt. She reached the xenobiology lab, her destination all along. Inside, specimen containers lined the walls, each holding samples of different atmospheric compositions. Dr. Xanli's notes on crystalline life forms were still displayed on the main console. Your resistance is impressive but meaningless. Not Kithel's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. We are already adapting to your atmospheric variations. Your music is being analyzed. Soon, we will understand. That's humanity's secret, Sarah said, reading through Xanli's notes at lightning speed. The moment you understand one thing about us, we've already changed into something else. She began mixing compounds, following no formula, but her intuition and fragmented memories of chemistry classes. The parasites had absorbed scientists who understood every known chemical reaction, but they hadn't absorbed human creativity, human willingness to try the unknown. The crystalline forms breached the lab's door just as Sarah finished her mixture. The infected forms of her colleagues entered, Kithel, Sandley, and others, their bodies now more crystal than organic. Your final moments will provide valuable data, they said in unison. How does your species face inevitable defeat? Sarah held up the container of swirling, iridescent liquid. We don't believe in inevitable defeat. We believe in impossible victories. She threw the container at the nearest crystalline formation. The mixture splashed across the living crystal, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal began to change, its perfect patterns dissolving into random, chaotic formations. The parasites tried to adapt, to impose order on the chaos, but the chemical reaction followed no logic they could parse. What is this? The chorus's voice held something new. Fear. A mistake, Sarah grinned. A completely illogical combination of compounds that shouldn't work according to any known chemical law. But humans are really good at doing things that shouldn't work. As the infection consuming her colleagues began to break down, Sarah realized she'd found more than a weapon. She'd found proof that humanity's greatest strength lay in its embrace of chaos, emotion, and impossibility. The xenobiology lab had become a battlefield of dissolving crystal and chaotic chemical reactions. Sarah used the confusion to access the lab's quantum terminal, hoping to finally understand what they were facing. As she dug through the station's ancient database, a subtle vibration caught her attention. "Warning," the station's AI announced. "Unknown quantum signature detected in archaeological sector." Sarah's blood ran cold. The archaeological sector, where they'd first discovered the crystalline artifacts, where this had all begun. The vibration grew stronger, and now she could feel it in her teeth, a resonance that shouldn't exist in normal space. She rushed to the sector, her mixture of chaos-inducing chemicals clutched tightly. The scene that greeted her defied description. The artifact's containment chamber had transformed into something that hurt to look at, a quantum anomaly that flickered between dimensions. "Your species was not the first to weaponize chaos." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, different from the parasite chorus. An ancient hologram flickered to life, a being of pure geometry, yet somehow organic. Its form shifted through perfect mathematical progressions that made Sarah's eyes water. "Who? What are you?" she asked. "I am what remains of the Axiom Archive, an artificial intelligence created to preserve knowledge of the Crystal War." The hologram stabilized into a more comprehensible form. "Your discovery of this facility was anticipated, though the timeline was uncertain." Sarah's mind raced. The artifacts weren't weapons. They were a warning. "Correct. The crystalline entities you face were created by the determinists, a species that believed the universe could be perfected through absolute mathematical order. They created the parasites to impose their vision of perfection on all life." The hologram displayed scenes from an ancient war. Countless civilizations fell to the crystal plague, their knowledge and capabilities absorbed into an ever-growing crystalline network of perfect, predictable patterns. But then they encountered humanity's ancestors, Sarah said, understanding dawning. "Yes, your species was young, barely achieving tool use. But you possessed something unique, minds that operated on the edge of chaos theory. The determinists' parasites couldn't predict or control you. Their perfect patterns shattered against the randomness of human consciousness." Sarah watched as the hologram showed early humans facing down crystalline horrors with nothing but stone tools and unpredictable tactics. "We won. You survived. The parasites were defeated, but not destroyed." The determinists, rather than accept failure, encoded themselves into their creations and went dormant, waiting for a time when they could understand and overcome the human anomaly. The vibrations intensified. Through the quantum anomaly, Sarah could see streams of data flowing. The parasites were trying to access the archive, to absorb the knowledge of how to defeat humanity. "Your chemical solution was impressive," the AI said, "but temporary. The parasites are already adapting, analyzing the pattern of chaos you introduced." "But that's their mistake," Sarah replied, a plan forming. "They think chaos has patterns." She connected her data core to the archive's interface, her neural patterns, her memories, her dreams and fears and hopes. Everything that made her human began flowing into the ancient system. The quantum anomaly fluctuated wildly. "What are you doing?" the chorus of parasites demanded, their voices distorting with uncertainty. "Showing you why you'll never understand us." Sarah pushed more of herself into the system. Childhood songs, favorite movies, random thoughts, emotional decisions that made no logical sense but felt right. Humanity isn't just resistant to your order. We're the embodiment of beautiful chaos. The archive systems began to pulse with human unpredictability. The crystalline parasites trying to access its knowledge encountered not data, but the raw essence of human consciousness. Their perfect patterns couldn't handle the input of a mind that operated on inspiration rather than logic, on feelings rather than calculations. As the parasite's harmonious chorus devolved into discord, the AI spoke one last time. Perhaps chaos is the truest form of order after all. The quantum anomaly had become a storm of human consciousness, raw and unfiltered. Through the archive systems, Sarah watched as her memories, dreams, and emotions cascaded through the crystalline network that connected all the parasites. But something unexpected was happening. Multiple quantum signatures detected. The station's AI announced. Origin: human colonial sectors. The parasite's chorus had fractured into countless individual voices, each struggling to process the chaos they'd encountered. But among them, Sarah heard something new. Human voices, reaching out through the quantum network. "We see you," they called. "We feel you. We're fighting back." The archive's displays showed her the impossible. Across human space, the infection was faltering. In colonies, on ships, in distant outposts, humans were instinctively doing what humans do best: adapting, creating, defying logic. Your resistance spreads like a virus. The parasite's collective voice wavered. Each human fights differently, unpredictably. We cannot formulate an effective response. Sarah watched in amazement as the data poured in. On Mars colony, a teenager had discovered that playing discordant music through the atmospheric systems disrupted the crystal's growth. A poet on Europa station had found that reading emotional verses caused the parasites to retreat from human hosts. An artist in the Centauri system was using chaotic light patterns to shatter their perfect geometries. Log entry: the archive AI announced, correlating human defensive strategies. No pattern detected. Analysis impossible. Each success appears random, emotional, instinctive. The crystalline structures throughout the station began to vibrate at conflicting frequencies. Sarah's infected colleagues stumbled, their movements losing their mechanical precision. Through the quantum link, she felt the parasites' growing panic. "We are order," they insisted, their voice fracturing further. "We are perfection. We are human." A new voice cut through the quantum noise. Dr. Cathal's true voice, breaking free for a moment. "Sarah, we understand now. Your species, your chaos, it's not a flaw. It's evolution's answer to the universe's greatest question." The archive's displays shifted, showing mathematical proofs Sarah could barely comprehend. The determinist's fundamental error, the AI explained, was believing that perfect order was the universe's natural state. But quantum mechanics proves otherwise. The universe itself operates on probability, on beautiful chaos. Humanity is not an anomaly. You are the embodiment of the universe's true nature. Sarah broadcast her revelation through the quantum network, reaching out to every human fighting back across space. Don't try to fight them with logic. Fight them with art, with music, with dance, with love. Everything that makes no sense, but makes us human. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Through the network, she felt humanity unleashing its full creative chaos. Children's nursery rhymes mixed with abstract equations. Love letters collided with battle cries. Shakespeare intertwined with pop songs. Every human mind connected became a broadcaster of pure, unfiltered imagination. The parasite's perfect crystalline structures began to fracture, unable to maintain cohesion in the face of such beautiful disorder. But as they broke down, something extraordinary happened. The absorbed alien minds, freed from the imposed patterns, began to embrace the chaos. "We see it now." Dr. Cathal's voice came through clearly, joined by others. The ability to act without certainty, to create without rules, to love without reason. This is not humanity's weakness. It is the strength that will save the galaxy. The quantum anomaly pulsed one final time, and Sarah felt the parasite's collective consciousness shatter. Not destroyed, but transformed. The crystalline structures remained, but they no longer followed perfect patterns. They flowed freely, chaotically, beautifully. The pattern is that there is no pattern, the Archive AI concluded. Humanity's gift to the galaxy is the freedom to exist without perfection. Sarah watched as her alien colleagues began to stir, their crystalline infections now a part of them, but no longer controlling them. Through the quantum network, she felt the wave of liberation spreading across space. Humanity had not just survived. They had shown the galaxy a new way to live. As the quantum network hummed with liberated consciousness, Sarah began receiving transmissions from across human space. Each told a different story of resistance, but all shared the same beautiful chaos that had become humanity's signature. Shanghai Defense Force reporting. A voice crackled through. We've been broadcasting ancient Chinese poetry mixed with death metal. The crystals can't maintain coherence when exposed to emotional extremes. Another voice. Luna Base here. Our kindergarten class started finger painting on the crystal formations. They're responding to the children's creativity, forming new patterns we've never seen before. The Archive AI processed each report, its holographic form flickering with increasing complexity. Analysis of human victory scenarios shows no tactical consistency. Success achieved through interpretive dance, abstract mathematics, improvised music, spontaneous laughter, quantum poetry, and cooking experiments. That was me. A cheerful voice cut in from Mars Colony. Turns out super spicy curry vapors in the air filtration system make the crystals go haywire. Who knew? Sarah couldn't help but laugh. Humanity hadn't just found a way to fight back. They'd turned resistance into an art form. Through the archive's displays, she watched as humans everywhere embraced their most chaotic impulses, each adding their own verse to an impossible symphony of disorder. But the most remarkable transformation was happening to the infected aliens. As the parasites' rigid control fractured, the crystalline structures didn't die. Instead, they began to resonate with their hosts' natural neural patterns, creating something entirely new. Dr. Xan Lai approached Sarah, her arachnoid form now gleaming with crystals that flowed like liquid starlight. "We understand now," she said, her voice her own but somehow more. The parasites weren't evil. They were imprisoned by their own perfection. Human chaos set them free. Through the quantum link, Sarah felt the truth of it. The determinists' creation had been meant to impose order, but in failing to infect humanity, they had discovered a greater purpose. The crystals were becoming a bridge between different forms of consciousness, allowing species to share not just knowledge, but dreams. Multiple quantum signatures converging, the archive announced. Non-human species are beginning to broadcast their own forms of chaos. Sarah watched in wonder as alien minds joined the network. An aquatic species shared their fluid poetry, untranslatable but beautiful. A gas giant's floating inhabitants contributed mathematical theorems that violated their own rules. Even the rigid, logical silicon-based life forms began experimenting with random number generation as art. "The galaxy is waking up," Kithel said, his crystalline additions pulsing with newfound freedom. For eons, every species tried to impose order on the universe. Humanity showed us that the universe's natural state is creative chaos. The quantum anomaly in the archaeology sector had transformed. What had been a weapon was becoming a gallery of consciousness, displaying the infinite varieties of thought and creativity being shared across space. The parasites, once agents of perfect order, now served as a medium for the greatest art installation in history, the combined imagination of a galaxy. Through the archive's systems, Sarah accessed the original determinist records. Their goal had been to create a unified, perfect consciousness. In their failure, they had achieved something greater, a network that celebrated diversity, chaos, and the beauty of imperfection. "Warning," the archive announced, but its tone held something new. Excitement, quantum signatures exceeding predicted parameters, network expanding beyond known space. Sarah felt it through the crystalline links. Alien minds awakening to their own capacity for chaos, for creativity, for change. Humanity hadn't just survived an invasion. They had sparked a revolution in consciousness itself. The children of Earth, Muse, who taught the galaxy how to dream. As the quantum network pulsed with unprecedented power, Sarah realized that this wasn't just a victory. It was an invitation to every species in the galaxy to embrace their own beautiful chaos, to share in the glorious disorder that made the universe not just alive, but truly conscious. 1 year after the Crystal War, Sarah stood at the podium of the newly established Galactic Council of Conscious Species. The chamber itself was a testament to the changes humanity had brought to the universe. Its architecture followed no logical pattern, its crystalline walls pulsing with the combined dreams of 1,000 worlds. When we first encountered the parasites, she addressed the assembled delegates. We thought we were facing extinction. Instead, we found our purpose. Humanity's greatest weakness turned out to be the galaxy's greatest strength. The quantum network, once a weapon of conformity, now connected the chamber's occupants in a symphony of diverse consciousness. Through it, Sarah felt the approval of silicon minds, the flowing thoughts of plasma beings, the crystalline dreams of former parasites who had chosen to remain as bridges between species. Dr. Kithel, now Earth's ambassador to the Council, stood beside her. His crystalline editions sparkled with complex emotions that would have been impossible for his species to express a year ago. The Axiom Archive's final analysis confirms what we suspected, he announced. The universe itself operates on principles of controlled chaos. Humanity simply evolved to embody this truth. The Archive's AI manifested in the chamber's center, its form now a swirling dance of mathematics and art. In one standard year, the network has documented 47,283 new forms of art, 12,946 new scientific theories, and 89,374 impossible things that somehow worked anyway. Humanity's influence has increased creative output across all known species by 8,247%. Through the network, Sarah felt the ripples of change spreading even further. The crystalline entities, once bound by the determinists' rigid programming, had become teachers of chaos theory. They helped logical species understand emotion, taught ordered minds to appreciate randomness, and showed perfect beings the beauty of imperfection. The parasites were designed to absorb and control. Sarah continued. But like humanity, they evolved beyond their original purpose. Now they help us share not just knowledge, but dreams, hopes, fears, everything that makes consciousness beautiful. She brought up a holographic display of Earth, surrounded by a cloud of crystalline satellites. Each one pulsed with the thoughts of children learning to share their imagination across species barriers, of artists whose canvas had become the consciousness of alien minds, of scientists whose theories danced on the edge of impossibility. We discovered something greater than resistance, Sarah said, feeling the weight of history in her words. We discovered that the universe doesn't want to be perfect, it wants to be alive. The chamber erupted in a celebration that transcended physical expression. Through the network, species shared their joy in ways unique to their nature. Mathematical euphoria from silicon minds, quantum harmonies from energy beings, crystalline poetry from the transformed parasites. Dr. Xan Li, her arachnoid form now a living artwork of flowing crystal, addressed the council. The determinists sought to eliminate chaos from the universe. Instead, their creation became the tool that helped us embrace it. This is what humans call irony, another concept we have learned to cherish. As the celebration continued, Sarah received a private message through the network. The Archive AI had discovered something in its oldest records, an ancient prophecy from a long-dead species, speaking of a time when the children of chaos would teach the universe to dance. Sarah smiled, watching the impossible beauty of 1,000 species learning to create without limits, to think without boundaries, to exist without perfection. Humanity had done more than survive. They had shown the galaxy that the greatest strength lies not in imposing order, but in embracing the magnificent chaos that makes life worth living. The crystals throughout the chamber pulsed one final time, transforming the council hall into a swirling canvas of shared dreams. In that moment, Sarah understood that this wasn't just a happy ending. It was a beautiful beginning. The universe had learned to dance, and the music would never stop.